Good morning, good day, good evening, whatever your time zones may be, it doesn't matter. You are here for VRL and VRL only. Today it's the return following what has been a long summer shutdown for Vision Racing League. We're here for the first of 4 Qualy trials here today in Brazil. I'm Alex Bomberg, VRL F1 commentator and the admin of this league. Today I'm joined not by my usual co-commentator, which is Sem the Notix. However, I'm joined with VRL F2 commentator Adam Burns. Adam, thank you for joining us today. How are you doing on this fine Saturday evening?
Well, thank you for having me, Alex, and oh boy, we are back and I am so excited to, even though this is a pre-qualifying event, if you like, for the VRL leagues that are to come in the next few weeks. Of course, guys, don't forget to check that out on the YouTube channel and on the social media for more updates on that as we get them. But I've got to say, it's so good to be back. Even though it's been a few weeks away, Alex, it feels like such a huge, such a long time since we had the social tournament, and even longer since we had the finales to our seasons of F1 and F2 in VRL. I can't wait to get started.
It's going to be great. Remember, new teams, new drivers, got a lot going on. Fewer drivers joining us today, just to give you a run through of the lineup for today. We're just waiting on Yoda Speak to join, our VRL Season 2 champion. Back for more in Season 5. So he's going to come on, but whilst we wait for that, we're going to run you through the running order for today. So it's going to be a one-shot qualifying at Brazil, Adam. 25% race. There's no points on offer for today. For those that don't know, for those that don't follow Vision Racing League on Instagram, that's at Vision Racing League over on Instagram. So how will the running order today affect drivers as they go into the season?
Well, I think what's important to note, Alex, that we're not necessarily looking, or at least not us personally, but the organisers and the league administrators are not necessarily looking at speed. Of course, it will help if you're fast and you are a race winner in this race, or you finish quite highly in the order. That will go somewhere to help you. But of course, we're also looking for clean racing. We're looking for drivers that are going to be going toe-to-toe with each other, but of course not ending up in the barriers, of course, if they can help it. And that's going to go a long way. So if you're fast, and if you're clean and you race fairly, there's going to be a very good chance that you'll find yourself even in the top tier, the upper echelons of Vision Racing League. But of course, we've got 3 exciting leagues now. We've got Division 1, we've got F2 that we had last year that was very, very successful in its opening season, and of course we will have F3, Formula 3 as well. And by no means are they going to be shorting drivers out by putting them in the lower 2 divisions. Of course, very competitive division F2 was last year, and I'm expecting the same for F3. But as we said before, Alex, so much competition. Everybody's going to be looking for a bit of personal pride, especially on the new F1 2020 game, which of course we are finally on here now, and it looks absolutely stunning. But today is a lot less pressure, but it's a good opportunity for some of these guys to really show Vision Racing League, especially if they're not involved in previous seasons, to really show them what they can do, really show their speed, show that they can race clean and fair, and put on a good show for the audience today.
Of course, and it'll be work for us as the drivers load into one-shot qualifying. It'll be work for us admins to do after this, compiling all the data of each driver, then tiering them up before we give them their top 3 team preferences. But that's how it goes in Vision Racing League, as Adam mentioned. Pace helps, but we're also looking for drivers who are capable of racing cleanly and putting on great battles for all the fans watching over on the Vision Racing League Instagram. Thank you for all joining us today on the live chat. Say hello if you're there. And as you mentioned, Adam, we've had I think around about 110 sign-ups for Season 5, which is something quite impressive, I'd say, Adam.
Well, considering that we've only got 60 spots available in theory, that is incredible. Now, of course, we should stress with the sign-ups, Alex, this is not restricted to newer drivers. Of course, seasoned veterans and familiar faces of Vision Racing League have all had to sign up like everyone else. However, of course, while some familiar faces will be preferred choices in certain slots. This is an opportunity for some of the newer drivers to really match up against our more familiar friends to see how they stack up before the season. So a great opportunity to impress today.
Of course, we've got the eyes of everyone watching. Currently one shot qualifying, Compassion doing well. Got a Red Bull as well. Adam, I'm not going to try and pronounce that name. And TRT James at the top, setting the pace in the house. Very close with him and Compassion. We'll see as they cross the line, but this is going to be very important. One lap to nail it. Jamil has seemingly made a mistake. Very easy to invalidate. If you do invalidate that, you're qualifying over. Here we go, across line. A 7-3 for the Red Bull who takes pole. It all seemed quite close, Adam, as we're going to go into the results here.
Yeah, you're absolutely right there, Alex. I mean, it was a very quick lap from a pole to Sitter Compassion. Those of you familiar would recognise that name from Formula 2. And of course, Korechka on pole position with a 1 minute 7.3. Got that in one go. And yeah, that's a very, very solid lap time. Interesting to note, Alex, the top 10 separated by less than a second. And of course, Brazil, as you and I both know, promotes some excellent racing, excellent overtakes. A fan favourite amongst the VRL community. And I'm very much looking forward to seeing how these guys all race each other. It looks very competitive already. So that's an exciting race for us.
Yeah, less than a tenth separating the top three. And just remember, we're not expecting, necessarily wheel-to-wheel action throughout the field today. We got drivers like Koretka, TRT pushing the front end of F2, maybe might even sneak into F1, and then we have other drivers who I'm not going to hang any drivers out to dry who will be on Formula 3 pace. So it's going to be quite an interesting dynamic, and the only time we're going to see this tonight, Adam, when we've got potentially drivers from 3 different tiers going up against each other. One thing to note before we go any further is we've got 2 shifts tonight. We've got this quali trial commencing in just a moment, 25% raise before we go into the second quali trial of the night, starting at 6:30. Hopefully we're on time for that one. And I'm hearing that Stein...
it might be a bit delayed for the second one, Alex, but nonetheless, that's okay. Of course, guys, make sure to stick around. Of course, when this race is over, we will have another one, as Alex has pointed out already. But yeah, it's going to be a short sprint race, but certainly looking forward to seeing what happens here. How will the mentality of the drivers be in this race? Now, of course, there's no points on offer in this race, but a lot of pride out there. And as you can see, only 14 drivers, but definitely not going to be short of the action as they get on the way for the formation lap.
Let's not forget as well on this game, for those that don't know, new F1 game, it has been simplified, the ERS system. So the way it works now, instead of having 5 different ERS moves the drivers could toggle left, right and centre every corner of the lap, they have one ERS mode and then an overtake mode, and that really adds a different dynamic. So especially at a track like Brazil, where we spoke a lot in the F1 race last season, Adam, a lot of the drivers would just sit in the DRS and conserve their ERS because they didn't have to spend it. They'd save it by staying behind and just by staying in the DRS, because the DRS was so powerful here at Brazil. But now the drivers are forced to always use their energy and have that powerful overtake button which they can deploy for what is probably around 7, 8, maybe a little bit shorter depending on the track, seconds per lap, similar to the curve system we saw back in 2010. And that just adds a different insight. As you can see here, the predicted pit stop strategy, that's the first time I've seen that, Adam, and that is awesome.
Yeah, I was just going to say, actually, I was very much looking forward to seeing that new graphic for F1 2020. Of course, you and I, working together for a while now, would know that we used to tend to differ on our strategies, you more often being right on the predicted strategy, but we don't have to worry about that anymore. The kind folks at Codemasters have taken care of that for, and there you go, once again, the predicted stop strategy. So yes, of course, guys, as you can see, the window will be everyone starting on the softs with the exception of PSV. I'm going to carry on with the rest of that, changing on to either the medium or the harder tyres. I'm expecting a soft medium. You might get a few drivers pitting a bit earlier for that undercut to put the mediums on and really get that benefit, but of course, plenty to look out for today as we're about to get underway.
Of course, it's been a long time since we've done this. May is the last time I can remember. We've got all the drivers on the grid, 5 red lights ahead of the drivers, and for the first time in VRL Season 5, are we lights out? Yoda speaks gone. I believe the rest of the pack is gone. I think a little bit of desync there from Matt, who was struggling with his internet early on. Good start from Koretka, who gets into turn 1 well. Compassion and TRT James battling as we go down the centre S. Everyone keeping it relatively clean. Further back, Mickey Ter holding off Illuminate in the other racing point. There's no points up for grabs today, Adam, but a lot of respect to be earned throughout team bosses and admins. Good start from Corrector. He's leading away from Compassion, James, Mickey to Illuminate, Kimmy, King Enzo and Junior Spam are battling up the hill into the right-hander. Enzo just ahead.
Well, there's desync from Yoda Speak, and then there's forget this, guys. I've got dinner plans in half an hour, and he's just got to move on well early on that stop go. But of course now you've got Korechko, who's absolutely catching him. It must be desync because he's ghosting through at the moment, and it looks like Korechko's just going to drive right through as we see the predicted pit stop strategy. I'm already getting sick of seeing that so often already. But he's made that move into the lead now. Compassion following behind. TRT James following the run up the hill. It seems Korechko and Compassion already starting to break away from the chasing pack behind. And you've got TRT James now coming down the back straight. But after lap 1, Alex Korechko in the lead. Compassion already on the rear end in the racing point, the pink Mercedes as some has often called it, but that's going to be a rapid car, although we should suggest all car performances are equal in VRL leagues.
Of course, a little bit further back I think it was Junior Spam going side by side with King Enzo. Their battle was continuing. He's lost a place to Xavi Mateos and one to Dark Knight now, so Junior Spam outside of the points. The only medium run at the start, PSV, down in 12th position. Jamil has already pitted, going for that big undercut there. Do you think that'll be too beneficial for him, Adam?
Well, I mean, that's a huge undercut if he tries to make it work, but of course he might have had damage. But I mean, I can see him going through at the back now. He's going to have some real tyre issues later on, but we'll have to wait and see. I mean, certainly expect that to be a one-stopper now, but perhaps being in clear air, he's a quick driver. It might pay off for him a little bit later, but he's definitely going to have trouble keeping the guys behind him when this race unfolds. Yeah,
for those on the stream there, just had the predicted pit stop strategy on the screen. I imagine we'll be seeing that throughout the race. I don't think anyone will be thinking about pit stops yet. On board with King Enzo here as he breezes past, using that overtake mode, breezes past Illuminate. He's going to make that move up into 6th position. Further back, Xavi Mateos in the Williams making a move, or defending I should say, from Dark Knight, who's got a move on. He started outside of the top 10. He's now in 9th, pressurising Xavi Mateos, who was a feature in F2 of VRL last season. Side by side, the two of them go, as that's Junior Spam making a move back past Dark Knight, and PSV hanging on quite well on them medium tyres, Adam.
Yeah, so far he's making it work so far. He's looking for a move as Dark Knight goes very, very wide. Oh, and they've touched. But yeah, Dark Knight going very, very wide there, trying to defend into turn 8, just about holding on to the position. PSV doing a good job holding on to the back, but he doesn't want to stay too far as he goes for a lunge on the inside. They bang wheels again, and they're still side by side with each other. I tell you what, PSV clearly faster and more stable than the silver Mercedes, which of course that should be changed fairly soon, but we're still running on the old Mercedes livery at the moment. Cannot wait to see that nickname. But yeah, as you can see, Compassion sitting the fastest up a race. He's right behind Korechko. Is he going to go for a move? Not quite this time.
Illuminate's making a move. He's side by side with Xavi Mateos. Jamil's out the session, so he's had a torrid day. I'm not sure if he's made a mistake or something's failed there, but nevertheless he's out. Made an early pit stop. That strategy didn't work, and he's got nothing to show for it. Xavi Mateos now battling away with Illuminate for 7th position. He goes down the inside of that tracing point, of some people have labelled it. That opens the door for Junior Spam in the McLaren to get passed up into 8th position there. And as you mentioned, Koretka right up the back of Compassion there.
Yeah, Compassion made that move stick into turn number 4. They were side by side, touching wheels a little bit.
TRT James got TRT James off the track, started 3rd, now down to 6th, might lose a position to Xavi Mateos as they go side by side, down the hill, round the left hand, around the outside, goes that Williams. And does TRT James have damage, or has he just... I think he does have some damage there, Adam, on the front left element of that front wing. The rear tyres don't look all that healthy. And Compassion 99 is back in the pits now, Adam, so going for an undercut strategy here.
I say very, very huge undercut, but clearly, having experience on previous games, will know that this strategy might work out for him, but he was clear in the lead, so a very, very strange call there from Compassion. Clearly wants to get into some clear air, try and take advantage of that. Now, what will could do, because he has clear air in front of him, he's got Mickey Tours about 4 seconds behind him. Will the Red Bull driver just carry on with his normal strategy, or will he try to pit now to cover off Compassion's undercut? Because you've got to say, Alex, it's still well too early to be trying anything like that, but perhaps Compassion knows a bit more than I do about this 2020 game, how it treats the tyres.
Perhaps we'll have to see as the race goes on. But let's look back to the front. Koretka, his rival on the track, VRL Compassion, down in 11th. He just pitted. If he pits this lap, he may come out quite close. If not, he might have to concede the position. I believe he's coming to the pits this lap, Adam. No, he continues.
No, he continues on, and it's worth pointing out, Alex, I'm just looking at Compassion. He's about 3 seconds behind Ivor Bighorn and Dark Knight, I should say. Try and say that without it sounding like something else. But nonetheless, he's catching them very, very quickly. And this is going to be the problem for Compassion, because the other guys ahead of him are going to stay out as PSV goes around again with Junior Spam in the McLaren goes into the pit lane. So he's got to put on the set of mediums to go to the end. But yeah, as I was saying, Compassion catching the guys in front, that's going to cause him problems. That's going to slow him down, which should allow Koretka, who's currently lapping a second faster than Mickey Tour behind him, to get away, try and eke out as much as he can from these softer tyres, and then perhaps come out back in front of his rival when he makes his eventual pit stop.
Yeah, I'm just checking the gaps, Adam, and Compassion within 18 seconds of the leader, so by my calculations, this will be the lead for the Racing Point.
For the time being, he is, but of course he's now a second behind Ivor Bighorn in front of him, and as you can see, it's all going to depend on how well Compassion clears the traffic and how long Koretka stays on these softer tyres. I don't imagine he'll be on them much longer, which might help Compassion, but he's right behind his rival ahead of him in 9th position, so now we're going to start to see how easy can he clear the AlphaTauri in front of him. And I must say that AlphaTauri looks absolutely gorgeous on this game. One of my favourite liveries, of course, the new Mercedes one being the better one, but Compassion, easy as you like down the inside, that did not cause him any trouble at all. But will it be as easy to clear some of the others ahead of him? We'll have to wait and see.
We'll have to see. As you mentioned, new car, new game, a new team. We'll be seeing very shortly who will be driving for the AlphaTauri team come when we group everyone up in the next coming weeks. Bear in mind we got the start to VRL Season 5 in just a couple of weeks. I believe, don't hold me on this, it's the 25th of July, so coming soon. Illuminate making a move past PSV. He might have made a mistake. Them rear tyres, well, he's just come out of the pits actually, so bringing them tyres back up to temperature. Correct me here, Adam, I think my graphic's wrong, because I believe PSV started on them tyres.
He did, and it does say 0 laps. Don't worry, Alex, you're not seeing things. It is, he has been on these tyres for 7 laps. Don't let the graphic fool you. He's doing really well beyond mediums, having started on mediums and still being in 6th place. But yeah, PSV, for those of you confused, he has done, what is it, 7 laps. He's on lap 8 now.
Yeah, since the start.
Medium tyres. Yeah, as you can see, the race leader as well, keeping his nose literally clean. That Red Bull looking a lot more sharper, reminiscent of the 2009 Red Bull, that really thin front nose, and of course, yeah, exactly. And it looks very, very good, and it looks fast as well, we should point out. And he's doing a good job so far. But Compassion now up into 6th place. That gap, it's about the same, I must say, Alex. I know you're pointing it out, about 18 seconds. It's around about the same. So you're right, Compassion has cleared his way through this traffic relatively well. He's right behind Dark Knight, about a second off. I think he might be okay. The only question I will have for him is, can he keep him once Koretka makes his pit stop?
We'll have to see. Only time will tell. Even if at this point, if Koretka comes out behind Compassion, he'll have fresher tyres, and how important will they be come the end of the race? Only time will tell. We'll have to see. Illuminate in the pits, or Javi Mateo, sorry, in the pits now. That's going to promote VRL Compassion past Dark Knight as well, who pits. So here we go. As you can see, the pit window open for the medium tyre strategy. So Koretka, I believe, is on course for that original planned strategy. Compassion went early, however.
Yeah, and this is what we like to call perhaps a little bit of a veteran move, experience. We know Compassion's very, very quick. We know he's very, very wise with his strategy calls, a lot wiser than I am on this game. And he's made that call to pit very, very early onto the medium tyres. And it does make sense to some regards. You wouldn't really want to run the medium tyres a shorter distance than you would the soft tyres. So he's making it work for him. He hasn't really encountered many issues with traffic. Perhaps PSV, the only driver he's approached that's got some speed in, and that might cause him problems. But to be honest, Korechka now comes into the pits from his softer tyres, so I don't think Compassion's really going to suffer. If anything, you'll get a nice loaded DRS coming all the way up the hill now behind that Ferrari, who I imagine will probably be looking to pit as well very, very soon as Illuminati goes into the pits. So I have to keep an eye on where is Korechka. He's now out of the pit lane.
He's just off the speed limit. It's going to be very close between these two. Compassion down the inside. That's going to hold him up. He's getting held up a lot. This could cost him the lead of the race, Adam.
Yeah, it could well do. They're going to be at full speed coming down, and I think Korechka's just about going to do it now, but Compassion is pulled alongside PSV, and he's going to get the toe from Korechka, but as you can see, more critically, Korechka stays in the lead by the smallest of margins, exactly what Compassion did not want to happen.
Let's not forget though, Korechka's tyres will be slightly colder. He might have to take a lap to get them up to optimum temperature, and if you're Compassion's engineer, you're going to want to be sticking in the slipstream in the DRS, and that should grant him an opportunity come a little bit later in the race. Let's not forget, think back to VRL F2 here last year, or last season I should say, on F1 2019, Compassion won the race here. If you remember that race, Adam, you commentated. He took.
You got 4th place in that one, didn't you?
I did finish 4th.
Yes, you did. Yeah, see, I remember that.
Yeah, me and Matt were. Yeah, me and Matt were 4th and 5th for the Haas team. Matt's fortune's not so going his way today. He did disconnect at the start, so we'll have to just bear that in mind. But yeah, Compassion took advantage of a crash between the leading two, if you remember, and took the win of the race in what was somewhat controversial if we think back, but it was all exciting looking back at it, and he's putting the pressure on the Red Bull at the moment. But at the moment, in his debut in VRL, it's for no points, but Korechka holding his nerve out in front, Adam.
And this is an important thing for Korechka. Obviously, he's relatively unknown to this community, and it's a very big scalp to take someone like Compassion, a driver that I often said in his VRL F2 days was very capable of mounting a challenge for the championship if he had challenging the likes of Ice-T and Jai Fletcher, who were the leading protagonists. So to win this race against someone like Compassion in a straight out fight will go a long way to impressing a lot of the bigwigs in VRL, to give him maybe not just a seat in F2 but perhaps even an F1 seat if he's so lucky. He's doing the right things at the moment. He's on the fresh mediums, he's got that advantage, and he seems to have the speed at the moment to keep Compassion behind him.
Yeah, we'll have to see. Obviously, we've compiled 3 time trial times of drivers from Spain, from Spa, and from Singapore on the F1 2019 game, which we will be putting into place for the drivers as well. But race pace and safety is one big thing we look into. I have to say the drivers so far have all been very well behaved, Adam.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right, Alex. We should stress to the audience, for those of you that aren't familiar with VRL and are watching this and thinking, well, you've got over 100 sign-ups and yet 14 drivers in the race. All those drivers that aren't racing today, are they not going to be involved? Well, no, not necessarily, but we don't just take this race. It goes a long way to helping your cause if you can prove that you're fast in a race and, of course, safe, which is what Korechka is doing in particular. But time trials and, of course, previous experience will help your cause as well. So there's a lot of things to look at, but don't get me wrong, we are going to be having 3 very full, very fast grid rosters come the first race of the season for all of our leagues, not just the top one, of course. So from what I've seen so far from a few of these drivers in particular, I'm very much looking forward to seeing how they get on when the season gets underway.
Of course, I'm just looking on from the rear wing of Junior Spam here, defending Well, he was defending from Illuminate. He goes around the outside. Max Verstappen vibes from back in 2016 there. This time it's in the dry. Illuminate powers past that McLaren in the Racing Point. Junior going to come back on the inside there with the brakes. Late on the brakes there from Junior. They're going to be side by side up the hill, keeping it clean. It's been a good battle so far between these two. Looks as if Illuminate is going to tuck back in. And great battling, great respect shown between the two of them. Ooh, make a bit of, yeah, as I say that, I think that was a little mistake there. Illuminate backs out. There's a little bit of lag going on between them two. And further up, Xavi Mateos is pressurising up for P4, which is something I don't think we really expected from the F2 driver.
Yeah, Xavi Mateos in his Red Bull days in the F2 did pretty well at times and did struggle to put in the big performances on a regular basis, but he's certainly doing a good job today running in 5th place, trying to get the move now on the Renault driver King Enzo. I've seen him a few times round the outside into turn 1. That's going to be a hard move to pull off, but you might be able to get him. Of course, double DRS now, running all the way down to turn 3. Now the long run down into turn 4. Xavi Mateos right behind King Enzo. King
overtake
Enzo
mode
goes to the left-hand side. Overtake mode engaged, as you're pointing out, Alex. Can he go for a move around the outside? It looks like both of them using the overtake. Goes very, very wide onto the curbs, but I tell you what, it's firm, fair, hard racing, and great stuff from King Enzo to defend the position. But that's a battle that's going to go right to the end of this one, Alex.
Of course, looking forward to see the culmination of that. Let's not forget, only 4 laps to go at the end of this. After this lap, 4 laps to go. Xavi Mateos still pressurising King Enzo. Looks like Mickey Tur's kind of running his own race. You saying, Adam, something going on?
Sorry, yeah, you were just saying about Xavi Mateos, but he completely lost the back end, almost went into a bit of a tank slapper, but he managed to hold on to it, so he's lost about a second behind King Enzo. So yeah, sorry to interrupt you there.
Yeah, I'm just watching the fight between Illuminate and Junior Spam still raging on. I think Illuminate's actually out of VRS as he comes through the main straight. A bit of contact between the drivers there. There's wheel to wheel over the crest into turn number 1. Illuminate with the inside line. Looks like the Racing Point just finally got that job done on the McLaren. However, the McLaren will now get DRS as Illuminate's gone off the track. Or he had gone off the track. I think both of these...
a bit of a desync, yeah.
Yeah, both of these struggling with their Wi-Fi connections, as is an often problem with Esports Junior back down the inside. And amid the lag, this is quite a good battle, Adam.
Yeah, I mean, we know Junior Spam, one of our international stars, more so than the others, so we know about his lag problems, but I tell you what, these two are giving us quite a bit of a show. It's just a shame that it's the 7th and 8th position, of course, further up the front. Still only 6/10 separating Korechka and Compassion. Compassion, on the older tyres, cannot do anything about Korechka ahead of him. No matter what he tries, it seems like Korechka's doing the job today.
Fastest lap, though, from Compassion.
Yeah,
he's
that.
Ever closer. Commentator's curse there, Adam. Ever closer to the Red Bull ahead. But it just looks like Korechka's getting such a good exit off the corners, and that's probably where his younger tyres come into play. Just less wheel spin, more traction, and away he goes. And by the time he's flown away, it's not enough for... There's not enough time for the Racing Point to take advantage of the slipstream and really close up. We've got 3 laps left in this race. We're going to stay with this leading battle as anything can happen between these two. I think we'd be silly to place a bet at this point on who's going to win, because I don't have a clue.
And I'm not much of a betting man, but one thing I do know about watching Compassion, he's very composed in his approach, very consistent. He will not rush in to make an overtake. He will bide his time. He's still got plenty of time, but we don't know much about Korechka. We know he's fast. We know he's consistent at the moment. We've seen that today. But can he hold his nerve now? The pressure's starting to increase. Compassion's getting ever so closer, fastest lap after fastest lap now. Can he hold his nerve? And as you can see, he goes a little wide into turn 1. Korechka with Compassion now as he engages the overtake button and the DRS now. He's got a lot of speed. He might go for a move into turn 4 around the outside. If he does it, it's going to be some overtake. Now they both go in there, but it looks like Korechka places that Red Bull in the right place to defend that position, and he retains the lead for now. But Compassion still all over the back of him as Junior Spam and Illuminate continue in their battle for 7th and 8th. But we'll stick for the leaders for the time being, Alex. This is some good stuff, and it's only just a trial.
Yeah, I think the Racing Points are really in the wars today. We've got Illuminate and Junior Spam swapping around. They were side by side. I think Illuminate's dropping back to the Ferrari now, who is on fresh soft. I don't know how old he is, or how old the tyres are, because they're showing up as 21 laps old, and we only had 17 laps as we go into the final lap of the race now. Is Compassion close enough for a move for the lead of the race, or is he content with just sitting behind for second position? Phil Smith,
Well, I'll tell you what, he's gaining a lot on him in this one. We'll see how Korechka is. Oh, he locks his brakes edge. You can see he's not using any ABS, but nonetheless, Korechka goes a bit wide out of turn, and he gets a time penalty, Alex. He got very wide out of there. And I'll have to have a quick look, but I believe that may have cost him, might cost him the win, because Compassion does not have a penalty. Has 2 warnings though, but no penalty. So, as I was saying, Compassion very consistent, puts a lot of pressure on his opponents to make these overtakes. And Korechka, for the first time in this race, see him lose his nerve just a little bit, and at the worst possible moment, and it could cost him the win.
He's led every lap of the race, but it just seems as if he's not going to get it across the line.
Yeah, so go through the final corner now, running up the hill. It looks like Compassion, he's not going to get it done on the track, but he doesn't need to now as they go up the hill now. From these two, expecting big things from them this season, regardless of what leagues are going to be in. But it's Korechka who comes across the line first on the track, but it'll be Compassion in the racing point that will take the win in the first qualifying race for VRL.
What a showing from the two at the top there. Compassion leading Korechka. Mickey Turt up in third as well. Good performance from him. I saw Phil Smith said, former admin of VRL. He said on the chat, good race from the front too, and these guys could be seen in F1 this season. Obviously referring to Compassion and Korechka. We'll have to see how they stack up against everyone, as is the point of tonight's qualifying trials. It's something new, it's something different we're experimenting, and we'll see how it goes up. But just to run you through the final order before we get into the podium procedures, it was Compassion who held out Korechka ahead of Mickey Turt, and I've just lost the standings. So we'll go to the podium, we'll run through the final order. Driver of the day, Xavi Mateos. That's a nice new little thing, so well done to Xavi Mateos for getting P4 or P5 I believe, and driver of the day. And then we're going to go into a new lobby, Adam, as we just had invites through.
Yeah, I mean, of course, guys, put in the chat who you thought your driver of the race was. I know the game tends to recommend the driver that makes the most, makes up the most positions in the race. This is why sometimes when Anthony Davidson is asked on the game, you do tend to throw up some really strange ones without proper context. But nonetheless, excellent drive from the front two. Of course, Compassion getting the win. Korechka showing some brilliant pace, knocking it on pole position, but one small little error can be the difference between winning and losing, and Korechka finds out, thankfully, in a manner that's not going to cause him too much distress, unlike in the season where it may be much more painful. Mickey Turt getting third place in the Renault. Of course, if you remember Mickey Turt, Alex, he was the driver in the Russian GP quarter-final race that made the amazing move on the final lap to send his team through to the semi-final. If you remember that incident.
I do. Was it AMC, I believe?
Yes, AMC, and I think it was MDJ as well.
Yes.
Having a battle which, of course, ended in MDJ's demise, with Mickey Turt, the unlikely hero for his team, sending him through to the semi-final. So a great job from him today. And Xavi Mateos, as we saw, from 9th, moving up to 4th. King Enzo, another great drive from him. But what a good way to start the VRL campaign for 2020. Excellent first race. I'm hoping the second one is going to be just as enthralling.
So, thank you for joining us for the first race. We're going to stay on the stream. We're not going to make a new stream. I've just seen on the chat Bull TTE asking how do the standings work, how we been tier 1, 2 and 3. So I'll explain that just as we join this new session, madam, if you've got no issues with doing that with me. Both have invites from Stein. But the way it's going to work tonight is we've got all our drivers. We have had to turn some away and say no, because some have been quite far off the pace. Of which it wouldn't be right to throw them in with a shot here because they're just too slow. We've said go and improve. If you're quicker, then come back next season. But basically the way it's going to work, we're going to analyse all the pace of all the drivers following this, tier them up. Obviously we're going to combine what happens tonight in their one-shot quality, their race pace, also with their 3 sets of time trials that we've had from Spain, Spa and Singapore back on the F1 2019 game. We're going to pool them all together, get an average score for the drivers, and from that we will form the VRL Season 5 F1 grid along with the Season 2 F1 grid. Well, and the Season 2 F2 grid and the Season 1 F3 grid. Don't forget as well, we will have a raft of reserves as well. So drivers, anyone watching this today or watching it in the future when it's gone up on the YouTube channel, if you do not get a main seat, do not stress, there are still reserve seats available for yourself, and worst case you can get promoted to a reserve seat. So it's alright as we prepare to go into the second qualifying trial. Adam, I believe we may be waiting on 1 or 2 drivers.
Yeah, and me.
Do you have an invite?
I'm just joining in now. But no, you're absolutely right, Alex. We do, a lot of the admins do look at the pace and experience. Of course, credentials do help a lot, but they are never a guarantee into VRL racing. And for those of you who might be watching this who have been turned away from these trials, don't be discouraged. Of course, we'll be looking forward to trying to accommodate more of you in the future. And of course, do sign up for reserve driver slots. You'd be surprised how often situations change for some of our signed up drivers where they can't compete anymore at certain times. Opportunities do become available. So if you're not successful,
Adam, just select spectator.
Yes.
I've just had that message
in
through.
The last, I think I did it. Yeah, I did. I mean,
worst case, we'll have Adam Bot.
We'll have Adam Bot. It'll certainly be faster than I would be. And, no, we are going to get Adam Bot by the looks of it, because I've just been given tyre allocation preference. So
lovely.
Oh, lovely, lovely. I'm going to go for the softer tyre allocation, even though I'm not racing in this race. Give my bot all the chance in the world.
Well, thankfully he will drop a lap down relatively soon. He'll ghost for everyone, so apologies for that. And we have a few drivers that I'm sure we will all be very familiar of in the field today. Sem, the Notix, my co-commentator, my co-admin here at Vision Racing League. He did 3 races at the back end of last year's F2 season. I'd like to apologise. Did 3 races at the end. His wheel failed at turn 2 here in F2 last season. He got taken out in turn 2 in the final race at Abu Dhabi. And I can't remember what the other one was. I think he just missed out on points in USA. So Sem's got a lot to prove. We've got a lot of drivers also with a lot to prove. Stein Kuistra. I'm just going to say Stein for now. Yeah, he had an average campaign in Formula 2 last season. He's going to look to build on that. Nick Pancras as well, also looking to gain pace. X18, another familiar face from F2 last season. Hopefully he can stay off the curves, stay away from the penalties, which I believe he racked up quite a few at him in USA, was it?
Yeah, he did. It was almost as bad as Man United amount of penalties he was getting in that one. And that's not exactly inaccurate, I must say, but that's the name of the game, guys. As we saw in the first race, penalties can cost you a win. So you've really got to try and keep it clean, especially in qualifying, because you don't want to end up further down the field than you'd like. Of course, it's a very
Adam,
short race.
I can't believe I'm saying this, but I think Sem is borderline in line to take either pole or a front row start. He's side by side with Hank Peter, your co-commentator from another league. Hank Peter actually takes pole there, ahead of Stein, the Notix. Sem in third. Sorry to cut you off, Adam, but it all went very close at the end there.
I know, what a lap from Sem. I mean, I'm almost surprised because Sem's quick, but I didn't expect him to nail that one. Brilliant job from Sem.
And even closer than the first Qualy trial qualifying session. AlphaTauri 1-3. Obviously no constructors, no points for anything, but Adam Bot down in 13th. Not last,
yeah,
Adam.
I'm not impressed by that, if I'm perfectly honest. I mean, I expected better from my bot, but nonetheless,
maybe we
he's
can
going
score
to give
points
it a
in
go,
those.
guys.
But Matthias on pole. I was speaking to Matthias before, not necessarily today, but I have spoken to him in the past, and he says that he'll be hopeful for a Formula 2 drive. Well, with a performance like that, a 7.5 is not a bad lap at all in one-shot qualifying conditions, Adam.
No, that is a very solid time, and it's not too far off what Korechka managed. Only a couple of attempts, not even that much. So yeah, very, very impressed with that lap from Matthias, and of course Sem as well. So
and Stein, let's not shy over Stein.
And Stein, no, of course not. Must I forget? So we'll have to wait and see how that all pans out.
As we load in now for the race, hopefully we've got no desync off the line, which confuses me a lot. Or it did confuse me a lot. Hopefully everyone loads in quite well. We've got Kerem also. I can't remember how Kerem did, but he could be, if his qualifying went well, he could be a potential front runner here, Adam, as he's proven his pace in other leagues around the world, Adam.
Yeah, no, he has, Kerem, and again, another driver I've seen quite often in other leagues as well, so I know he's very, very capable of putting in a good performance today. Just have to wait and see how that goes for him.
So, here we are. I had a heart attack because I thought they'd started and I completely missed it. I was looking at the comments on the stream. But yes, here is the formation lap for the drives. We should have the predicted pit stop strategy up in just a moment. Matthias going all over the curb, but that is not the correct line through turn 3, Matthias. However, here we go. So, pit stop strategy won't be any different to the race we've seen prior, Adam. However, that does not mean we'll see a little bit of variation between the drivers. Every driver starting on soft tyres, so unlike last race, no driver opting for the alternate strategy. Do you think that's a pretty positive thing for the drivers, Adam, or is it worth having a shot?
Yeah, I suppose so, but I think there's going to be so many different variables in this race. Of course, from what we saw in the first one, we're going to see if anyone's going to take a gamble on this strategy, just like Compassion did. It very nearly worked out for him. So I have to wait and see if anyone else goes for that one. I might need to ask you, Alice, if you can just quickly re-invite me to this lobby. Otherwise, you're going to have to be a very... No, it hasn't let me do it, so... An interesting live stream all of a sudden.
So I've sent you an invite back. Worst case, you can just retire and join me up in the spectators booth, but I hope for your sake that'll get sorted out, Adam. But we got the drivers lining up on the grid now. Matthias on pole, Stein in second, Sem the Notix just behind in third. What can the AlphaTauris do? X18 in the Red Bull ever so slightly behind. Batboy in fifth, Nick Pancras and Kerem 7th and 8th. MSR Formula Marcus, Atix, Milan Kustra rounding out the top 10. Then it's King Kiski, Papine, Adam Bot, TTV, iQuicks and Sedumar rounding up the back of the grid. We're waiting for the 5 red lights now. We've got a green flag. iQuicks is lagged out. 5 red lights now ahead of the drivers. It's lights out and away we go for the second time tonight, for the second quali trial race. It's an awful start for Sem, who spins it off the line. He's gone sideways, no. And I believe Matthias has actually held the lead as we come through turn number 1. Not sure if there's even more desync here in this lobby. Nick Pancras. Yeah, I'm going to have to completely ignore the standings on the left because it's showing Batboy in the lead. You'll have to bear with me for the time being, but Henk Peter holds lead ahead of Stein. X18 in third, Nick Pancras up 2 positions up to 4th, Batboy holding out 5th. However, he has front wing damage as a result of that contact with the Notix. He's dropping back. There goes Milan down the inside. Said Umar's made a good start. 7 positions gained as he started from the back. King Kiski up into 9th, Papine up into 10th. And what happened with Sem there? Did you catch that, Adam?
Yeah, it just as he got off the line, it wasn't a bad getaway, but then he just the second phase of that, he just really started losing a bit of traction. Might have got a little bit of a tag in the background, but unfortunately, yeah, it just went horribly wrong. And then when you end up backwards on the start line, the last thing you want to be doing is going backwards, and I think that's what disqualified him the fact he was going backwards off the start. So unfortunately for Sem, a reliable F2 driver and of course an excellent commentator, but he will take no further part in this race. Meanwhile, and somehow it says I've set the fastest lap with 2 seconds. My bot's good, yeah, that good. And,
well, we've got a lot of cars in the pits. Formula Marcus Karim, Batboy as well. He was unfortunate to get caught up in that accident. Sexy front wing for the Renault, I do have to say, as that goes on that car. But yeah, a lot of desync at the start of that race. I'm not entirely sure to why that was. We've had that in both races now, Adam. So I'd like to apologise. Hopefully that is sorted come the start of VRL Season 5. But back to the front, Matthias leading ahead of Stein. X18 keeping the pressure, and keeping the pressure on X18 is Nick Pancras. Here is the predicted pit stop strategy. 1 stop, soft to medium, lap 10. Nothing is really changing there, and that's as we expected, Adam.
Well, it's good to see, obviously, a good battle developing at the front. The top 4 really getting away at the front. All very, very quick drivers in their own right, with Matthias leading the way, who, as we've commentated on races that he's done before, and he's very capable when he's in the lead to hold on to that margin. So we'll have to see how that unfolds for him. But will we see anyone taking a gamble on strategy in the same way that Compassion did, only this time perhaps working out more favourably for him? We'll have to wait and see how that develops as this race goes on. We've got a yellow flag in Sector 2. I believe that's a Batboy at the back of the field, still struggling.
Yeah, I'm not sure why, but hard tyres is an interesting option for him because the medium tyres could make it. We'll have to see how that one plays out. I don't think he'll be playing much of a part in this race, Adam.
No, I don't think so either, and it's a shame really, but of course it's all good experience. It's still a new game, people are still learning, so don't be surprised to see a few drivers acclimatised to this game better than others. The game handling model has changed so much, perhaps for the better in some cases, perhaps for others for the worse, but nonetheless it's going to throw up a few little surprises here and there. And right now Matthias doing an excellent job. He's got Stein, you've got X18, you've got Nick Pancras, all Linus third, literally separated by just 2 seconds between them. And this is a good battle between these 4 right now, and I'm hoping that they can continue this throughout the entirety of this race.
Of course, DRS enabled this lap. Of course, Stein will be chasing down Matthias all the way to the pit stops, as we have come to expect them around about lap number 10. He's very close now, Stein. Matthias defends the inside. Stein's going to opt for the outside line there. Can he get it stopped under braking? No, he can't. Little lock up on the front left there. And I'm actually noticing Adam Bot is up into P9. So Adam Bot for P1, for F1 even. Come the start of Season 5 maybe?
Yeah, it's definitely Adam Bot, guys. For those of you wondering if I actually did the qualifying lap, it's definitely Adam Bot, because if it was me, I'd be racing with Batboy all the way at the back of the field. On soft tyres, so that just shows how good I am on this game. But I'm nonetheless, though, doing a decent job there up in 8th place, as Kinkiski's had a bit of an off. And he's got damage. Should have turned 4 and 5, so he's got massive damage. Only just came in to see what happened there, so he's obviously had an incident with Attics and TTVI Quicks, who they're desyncing as well. So
I think we got a lot of desync in this race. I think it may be Stein's Internet who's hosting, but one thing to remember, we are running reduced damage here today, so the fact that the drivers are knocking off wings left, right and centre shows that they're having relatively heavy impacts. Back to the front, Hank Peter still battling with Stein, held the attack off into turn number 1. Stein backs out, gets a good run. Overtake mode possibly engaged, DRS as well, the larger rear flap. He's going to go down the inside to make a little bit of contact. I didn't get the best angle on that, Adam. Was that clean enough from Matthias?
No, it was a bit naughty from Matthias there. Stein had got a long way inside on the left-hand side. He left the door open as Matthias has lost control. And there you go. Well, some might say justice has been done on that one. But Matthias over-aggressive on his defending, but loses the car out of turn 6 and 7. And Stein, not in the fashion he'd have imagined it, but he takes the lead with X18 and Nick Pancras. Matthias rejoining the track in a safe manner. Of course, drivers are advised you can reset to track in some cases, but it has to be safe, not to the detriment of drivers coming behind him. So he's down to 4th place, and Stein, the new race leader in the Williams.
Good start for him. He's done what he needs to do. He's got a decent gap to X18, who's being hassled by Nick Pancras. Nick Pancras purple in the final sector. He's going to make a move down the inside of X18, moves up into 2nd position. Things are looking good so far for Nick Pancras, who started all the way down in 6th position. So good start for him. He's made up a lot of places. Inherited the position from Sem and Batboy after their incidents at the start. Kept his nose clean, and he could go and chase down Stein for the lead of the race, Adam.
Yeah, it's absolutely possible, and so far doing a good job at the moment, Nick Pancras. As we said, very, very quick driver, commentating him quite a few times in Formula 2 for VRL. He's definitely shown his pace in other leagues as well, and he's been getting stronger. The more often I see him, he seems to be improving all the time, so it's good to see that continuing, and he could be quite an asset in VRL this season. Definitely a driver to watch out for.
Of course, he proved his pace in CGP, which is a league set up by Marine, actually. All of you VRL fans will know about Marine and his adventures as of recently. Nick picking up the odd podium, was a front runner in that championship. So proving he's got pace, he just needs to convert that into current cars and not classic cars. And, you know, you never know, he could be a front runner in F1 if things go his way. It'd be ambitious, but nevertheless he could get onto maybe the midfield is probably a target for Nick come season 5.
Well, I think there was quite a bit of a gulf between the front runners in F1 and some of the guys at the back. No disrespect, of course, but you know that there's a testament to how quick our front runners in F1 are. They really are up there with the upper echelons of the esports community, perhaps with the exception of actual esports racers. But nonetheless, they are extremely quick, so there's absolutely no shame. If you get into F1 in VRL, it's a big achievement in its own right, so don't feel intimidated by the prospect of lagging in the midfield of that. That is a huge achievement, and Nick Pancras certainly has the credentials and the speed to make that a reality, and he's showing that today, keeping Stein very honest at the moment in 2nd place.
Let's not forget though, Stein, with all due respect, probably an F2 driver come the new season. I don't think he's quite got the outright pace to break into Formula 1, but you know, for Nick to prove himself as a top tier driver, he's going to have to pull off a top tier overtake here and pull out a top tier gap to Stein in order to prove that, because it's all well and good saying he can do it. He's got to go out and show us that he can do it. He's closing up on the Williams though. I do have to say that Mercedes does look very, very nice with the new red branded Ineos sponsor on the car for this year. Hopefully come the start of season 5 we'll have the all new black Mercedes, which yeah, I think everyone has come to love.
Well, it's a beautiful livery, and of course it puts forward a beautiful message in support of the Black Lives Matter movement, a powerful message. And I'll tell you what, Alex, I mean, I've seen some liveries in my time, and they always say, why don't Formula 1 cars more often have a black livery? But as far as I'm concerned, that has got to be one of the best liveries I've ever seen. It looks fantastic. It's just a shame that the car is so much better in the real world of Formula 1 than everyone else. But of course, that season's only just got underway. But this season is shaping up to be quite exciting, probably a lot more competitive than that one will be.
Well, we'll have to see. Never say never. We're focusing on the esports world now. Equal performance, and literally anything can happen. We will have the calendar announcement coming your way very shortly. The first round on the 26th of July. I can't reveal to you yet how many rounds there will be, because I haven't been given the green light, but I do have it up in front of me right now. And it's this race, we kind of get to the mid-race lull before the pit stops. Nick Pancras still putting on Stein. I will tell you, the us admins had quite a head scratcher throughout the off-season with the whole global pandemic and the rescheduling of F1, who pretty much have races every Sunday now up until Christmas, which with VRL running on Sundays provided an interesting dynamic. So one thing we will have to note out for, and I can tell you this, is that some of our races will be run at 2:30 and some other of our races will be run at 12:30 midday UK time. I believe that is well known, just purely because of the clashing with real life F1.
Oh, and X18 has retired,
yeah,
Alex.
I've seen that. I think he went into the pits and retired.
Yeah,
because he's not on track.
Like it.
Yeah.
Very strange one there. I mean, he's shown his pace, and we can see how quick he is. I'd have to find out what happened to him there, but that's a shame, really, because even though he was falling away from Nick Pancras and Stein just a little bit, he was running relatively well there in the top 3.
He might have hit the wall. I can't see his car anywhere, which suggests he's retired in the pit lane. So maybe he's had to go and do something. He's been preoccupied somewhere. But yeah, that is a strange one. But yeah, back to the point. We've had a head scratcher. We've had to change some of the times around. I'm sure everyone follow at Vision Racing League on Instagram. You'll be well up to date with everything that's going on. But that is one thing. Yeah, we've all had to adapt in these times of the global pandemic, and I hope you're all keeping safe at home, abiding by whatever guidelines the government puts out. As we've got both of the top drivers now back to esports, less political. Both drivers into the pits, both getting it slowed down. Nick Pancras much more aggressive on that pit entry than Stein. It's now going to be a battle of the pit crews. We know how quick Williams are. Does that translate to in-game? We'll have to see.
Well, having the garage further down is not really an advantage. You really want the Mercedes one. And you can see where the advantage is, because Nick Pancras, it looks like Mercedes have got their driver out in front. As you can see, yes, they have.
Oh, Stein's round.
Lost it out of the pits, and well, that's an odd one. He's reset to track.
Yeah.
I mean,
that has auto done. I have done that before, actually. That happens automatically. Because Matthias, Hank Peter, on the brink of a second. If he can make up a 10th and a half, less than a 10th now this lap, he'll be within the DRS, which will be massively beneficial for the AlphaTauri driver. Kerem as well in 4th, having a strong showing. Both Mercedes coming through the field quite well, Adam.
Well, I was getting flashbacks there of the first Austin Powers movie, where if you've seen it, that scene where he gets the car stuck in the middle of the hallway and he has to reverse back and forth over and over again to try and get it out. It's an impossible task, and thinking we were going to get to see Stein do that in the pit lane exit. Sadly, we didn't. He's reset to track, and interestingly enough, Matthias has done his pit stop as well, and he's right behind him, a lap ago. So this battle could reignite very soon, but as we said, Mercedes pit crew doing a brilliant job, and I told you the advantage of having that shorter run into your garage means that you don't have to worry about other cars coming into the pits and getting in your way. And Nick Pancras' team done a great job to get him out in front of Stein into the lead now.
Of course, Matthias has broken that 1 second. Oh, he was very much so on the brake. He does have DRS now, so can he close that gap with 6 laps to go after this one? We'll have to see. This seems to be the closest battle on track, Adam. Pepine a little bit further back. Pine's had a quiet race. He's up in 6th and putting the pressure on Milan Kustra, who I don't want to say in any way is related to Stein, but very similar surnames. And he's also another driver with a good race, up into 5th, starting from the bottom end of the top 10.
Yeah, doing a good job so far. That's the name of the game, Alex. As we said before, so often we focus on the drivers at the front having the battles, but it's the guys in the midfield, like Pepine, who was actually in the F2 Championship battle for quite a long time into that season. Quite quiet contender, but one nonetheless. It's about managing your pace. If you're consistent, avoid incidents, keep it clean, you'd be surprised how far up the field you can go in this series. And Pepine, a great example of how that works out for you. Doing a solid run at Milan Kustra, also running relatively well in 5th position, and Kerem as well, another regular driver finishing in the points in the midfield, up in 4th position and doing a solid job at the moment. So good on them at the moment, although I believe Kerem did stop quite early in the race, so we might find him falling further back into Milan Kustra and Pepine as this race reaches its climax.
Yeah, looking at Pepine now, he is closing up to Milan Kustra. If he continues this pace, he's half that gap. This time, next up, I believe Batboy's off again, or he's causing a yellow flag. I don't exactly know why. We'll have to see, but yeah, Pepine, give it a couple of laps and he should be ahead of the Renault driver just ahead of him. Pepine showing an impressive pace. Had a good start to his VRL F2 campaign last season. You'll remember this better than I will, Adam, because I was focusing on myself. But it kind of tailed off towards the end as, you know, other people came through fighting for the championship. He wasn't able to keep up that consistent pace we saw at the start of the season.
Yeah, it was a shame how that kind of teetered out for him, but as we said before, he was very, very solid. Definitely the guy for sometimes really was the one to beat, and it just didn't really work out for him. I think it just, when certain other drivers come into the series, like Jai Fletcher, like Compassion, the league got a lot more competitive, and the standard, the bar that was previously set by ICE just it got raised even higher and higher and higher, and that can only bode well for better series in the future. Of course, it was a new championship, a lot of new drivers, a lot of unknowns, but now it's been established for a while. I'm expecting a lot of brilliant racing in this season to come, and I can't wait to commentate on all of it.
I can't wait to, well, hopefully race in the races if I get put through that trial, through that tier even. But yeah, let's not forget, for those that don't know, I urge you to go and watch some of the F2 races, because the F1 is awesome, but some of the battles we had in F2, I don't want to be biased here, but a battle I had with Jamil in Suzuka, I'm sure you remember that one, Adam, went on all race.
Yes.
That was a lot of fun. Go and binge watch over the next 2 weeks. Here's Papine, really close. He's using his overtake mode. He's going to slipstream DRS round the outside up into 5th position, and he is also just 1.4 seconds now off Kerim if he can stay ahead of Milan. Crucially, made a little mistake on the exit of turn 2, so he's up into 5th. I think 4th is actually on for Papine here if he keeps it clean. But yeah, the point I was trying to make, F2 absolutely crazy. There's battles left, right and centre, and the championship fight went up until about 5 hours after the checkered flag of the final race, because we had 3 stewards inquiries to do on the leading drivers, which determined the championship. So we declared one driver as a winner, and that eventually got turned on its head, and we had another driver winning the VRL inaugural F2 championship, which was Jai Fletcher. And yeah, it's just absolutely crazy, and I really hope that continues in F2 this season, Adam.
Well, it was certainly the Prost Senna incident from 1988, almost as the equivalent of that to some regards. It didn't really end in the way that I hoped it would in terms of the on-track battles, but I think it's fair to say at the time that Jai Fletcher was a worthy champion on the track. That must be stressed. But I'm hoping this season is going to be even better. The order is very much a good balance of speed and skill from a lot of the drivers that I imagine will be there. Of course, with some returning favourites that I'm expecting to really bring a challenge for this championship, including you, Alex. I must stress your performances in the second half, and I'm not just saying this because you're here, were very impressive, and we're getting progressively better, so there's no reason to suggest that you can't put together a challenge this season, and I certainly hope that you do.
And of course your favourite gamer tag in the whole of League Racing.
Of course. I mean, I wasn't going to bring that in. I figured I'd kind of keep that on the lowdown. But yes, from what I've seen so far, still my absolute favourite. And I'm so glad that you decided to keep that for my benefit.
At least that's one trophy I'll be taking into VRL Season 5. But back to this race, less about us. Papine's sort of starting to slow down a little bit. He might be managing them tyres, but with only 2 laps to go, you'd think he'd be on full push to Kerim, who's on 9-lap older tyres to himself. Papine is going to have to really drive the wheels off that papaya orange McLaren if he wants to get a shot at P4, should penalties not play a factor here.
Yeah, Papine, it looked like he was going to catch up to Kerim. I mean, but Kerim's managed his pace rather well. He's stuck quite close. The gap between himself and Matthias has been very consistent, so those mediums holding on very, very nicely, especially in the same way that Compassion held on to his mediums in that race. So clearly they can go quite a long way, those mediums. They don't seem to deteriorate too much. But yeah, surprisingly, Papine has really not tried to drive the wheels off that McLaren. Instead, he'd rather just settle for 5th place, and probably not the worst way to go, but it's just a bit of a shame that it looks like he's going to run out of time before that battle gets interesting.
Of course, just one more lap to navigate. One person we haven't touched on in a little amount of time, Nick Pancras, drove away at the front. Drove a solid race. Admins, I know you're watching. I'm watching. This has got to be a really impressive. Got to put a smile on the face of the admins. And good job from Nick Pancras, Adam. Do you think he could maybe scrape his fingers in Tier 1 and maybe just claw in?
Well, I definitely think he's got the speed. My biggest concern when I was watching him in F2 last season, as good as he has been in the earlier parts, when he ran under different tag names, was that his inconsistency, and that sometimes he'd be very fast and then other times he'd be completely nowhere. If he can put together performances like that on a regular basis, the faster ones, of course, then there's no reason why he can't compete in VRL F1. He'd be a great asset for it. But if I'm brutally honest, I think I think it'd be better for him this season if he'd stay in F2 so he could put together a championship challenge, because he's definitely got the pace for that one. But totally up to the admins on how that goes as Nick Pancras now comes up the hill.
Impressive drive from the Mercedes. He's gained a lot of positions. He had a lot of work to do, but Nick Pancras is going to cross the checkered flag and he's going to win the second quali trial race here in Brazil. Stein Kustra finishes second. A strong race from himself, kept it clean. Nothing bad to say. Matthias made that mistake nearer on in the start, qualified on pole, made a mistake, fought back to third, which is okay, but not the cleanest track record, which we will have to look into and analyse. Kerem held on them older tyres for P4, an impressive performance for him. Pepine was fifth, a strong race for him. Milan showed good pace, but I think them tyres dropped off after pitting very early. I can't talk now. Formula Marcos up in seventh, made up some positions throughout the race, and seemingly we've had a lot of drivers who probably aren't up to the task of finishing with seventh and up. Sedumar, the leader of these, are 31 seconds behind Formula Marcos. That's not what he wants to be seen, Adam.
He was very out of sync on the strategy. I mean, kudos to Formula Marcos, of course. He had to pit very, very early after an earlier incident at the start of the race. Did a good job to get into the top 7. I don't think we're going to be seeing Adam Botts in VRL anytime soon. I'm very disappointed in his performance, quite frankly. I was expecting him to be better, but there you go. Drive for the day, Pepine, and I mean, I'll probably go for Nick Pancras under the circumstances, but Pepine drove a very solid race as well, and as you can see, taking the top step of the podium, Mercedes Williams leading AlphaTauri. I don't think we'd see that podium very often, but your race winner, Nick Pancras, definitely laying down a marker and reminding those in VRL that he's got a lot of speed and a lot to offer. So wherever he does end up, whichever division that is, I'm absolutely certain he will do a fantastic job this season. I cannot wait to see how it pans out for him.
We'll have to see. So that is 50% of our quali trials done. Adam, thank you very much for joining me tonight on what is this wonderful, well, where I am, sunny Saturday evening here in Stoke.
Yeah, it's sunny back in London for now. I mean, it's been terrible weather this week, but it's looking nice today, and hopefully more sunny skies to come, not just here back in the UK, but wherever you are around the world. And of course, F1 is back not only in real life, but also for VRL racing and on the esports scene as well. And I'm certainly looking forward to seeing another great season with some excellent action from the first lights out to the checkered flag at the end of the season.
So 50% done. Adam, are you joining me on commentary tomorrow for the 2 races, or?
I believe I am. So yeah, you'll be hearing plenty of me tomorrow.
So we'll be back at what I believe is 1 PM tomorrow for the first quali trial, followed by the second quali trial, which will be at 1:30. Hopefully everything can be a little bit more compact. I know we've got 2 drivers sorting out the lobbies. So hopefully that is all sorted. I expect to see you all back, and as I echo my comments from earlier, thank you all very much for joining. It's been a long off season. Well, it's felt like a long off season anyway. Been about 2 months now since we last raced in VRL. It's great to be back, and in just a matter of weeks we'll be back racing at the first race of this season, which will be revealed very shortly. So thank you all. Thank you, Adam, for joining. Congratulations to the podium drivers and everyone else who drove today, and we'll see you in the near future. So see you tomorrow.